Whether you're brand new to Instagram this year or you are a seasoned vet of Instagram and you're just looking to work with the current algorithm, we are focused on 10 very specific things that you can be doing to grow over on the platform. In my last video, I broke down those 10 areas that I really will be focusing on for my businesses and for my students' businesses this year. And in the following 4 videos, we're doing a deep dive look at those sections and how they actually parlay into that algorithm and what we can do to make the algorithm happy, to kick out our content more, to get us more followers and more payment inside of our business. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the algorithm, your main feed, and Instagram stories. And in the following videos, we'll be breaking down the other sections. So let's dive in. Okay, let's talk about the algorithm because that is the most important thing to understand when it comes to Instagram or any social media platform. The algorithm is what decides or determines what content is being sent out to what people, and then how much more it gets sent out to how many more people. So when it comes to the algorithm, we need to know what it's looking for. Now, the algorithm's entire job is to find content to show people, to keep people on the platform longer. Because when they keep people on the platform longer, they can then serve more ads to people, which means they make more money, so they're looking for content that keeps people in place on the app without scrolling away for the longest amount of time. So they're going through your feed, they're going through your posts, they're looking at the things you're doing, they're looking at your engagement, they're looking at what you're doing to create community on the platform, and this is all going to determine what of your content gets sent out to which people, and then sent out more and more and more, and where it's featured inside of the Explore tab. So you have to make sure you're creating content that it wants to see, and this changes frequently, so please don't panic if you found the magic secret sauce. Just because you found it and it works for a little while doesn't mean it's going to work forever. You have to be able to pivot and change what you're doing as the strategy behind the algorithm changes based on what people are interacting with. So remember, the algorithm is not out to get you, it's not out to hurt you, it is not out to kill your content and your reach. It is looking for what people are engaging with. So it is adapting to what people are seeing and engaging with on the platform. So if your fans aren't engaging with your content, it's not because the algorithm hates you, it's because your fans don't like the content you're putting out. You have to pivot a little bit. So the algorithm's entire job is to find that good content and show it to people. So let's do a little easy math here. And again, easy, simple math, basic numbers. Once you post something, when you post it, it sends it out to, let's say, 10 people. Again, easy math. If those 10 people engage, they comment, they interact, they share, then the algorithm says, oh, this is good content, let's show it to more people. And they're going to show it to maybe another 25 people. Based on what those 25 people do, they will then decide another 100 people or maybe not so much. Now, let's say that initial group of 10 doesn't interact with your content. That tells the algorithm this is not worth our time. We're not going to kick this out. It's going to have a very small reach because we can tell that people are not spending time with it because they are scrolling away without doing anything. So you have to make sure you're paying attention to what you're posting, how people are engaging with it, but also the time you post. And I know a lot of people ask, does time matter? Yes, it does. It absolutely matters. This is because you are creating content for people. And if they're not there to interact with it in the first set amount of time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, we don't know, they aren't telling us, if you're not getting that level of engagement, they're not going to kick it out anymore. That says it's dead in the water and it's not going to show it to many more people. If, however, you're posting when your people are available and they're engaging and interacting with you, then you are going to get more reach because they know that this is good content. They're going to keep kicking it out, which is why I've had reels posted that gets pretty good reach in the first 20 minutes and then exceptional reach in the 10 minutes following because people started engaging and interacting with it right off the bat. Whereas I've also posted very similar content at a different time when my people weren't around to engage with it, and because they weren't around to engage with it, it pretty much died in the water. It was where it was, it got some views, but not a ton. So you need to be aware of who your people are, who's following you. If they're busy moms and they are trying to wake up and get their kids ready for the day, get them on to school if they're doing virtual school, or get them off to school if they're going in person, they're not going to be available to interact with you. If somebody is working a 9-to-5 job, when are they going to be on Instagram? Maybe a little before work, maybe during their lunch break, that might be a great time to post, but not during work hours. You might catch people at a really good time, maybe 15 minutes before primetime television, because they have nothing better to do. They're waiting for their TV shows to come on. They're sitting there scrolling, or during commercials, during primetime TV, also a great time to get engagement. So think about when your people are available. If they're busy people who have a lot to do in the morning, morning's not going to be your time. If, however, they have a lunch break, lunch might be your perfect time, and this also depends on time zones. You want to make sure you know who your audience is, where the majority of your audience is, and when they are going to be available, and post during those times. Make sure you're testing. Track what you're doing and what is and is not working for you, because it is going to make all the difference when it comes to how your content does in the algorithm. And just because one piece of content doesn't do as well as you think it doesn't mean you shouldn't be creating that content. Test, test, test. Be willing to pivot, be willing to change, and be willing to adapt to what the algorithm is doing that particular day based on how people are engaging with your content. Your main feed is the first thing that people see when they come and check out your profile, and is probably what you're going to be judged by. So we want to make sure we're paying special attention to the content you're putting out on your main feed, because this is the representation of you that people will first see. So when it comes to your main feed, there are a couple things we need to know, because things have changed and things have pivoted from what it used to be. Now, previously on your main feed, people were looking for highly curated images and even some video, and they wanted it to have this very curated magazine-like look. The aesthetic had to be perfect. It had to be light, bright, and airy, and it had to fit what people wanted for them to then follow you, because they were looking for that visual appeal, because that's the content that they wanted to see. Instagram used to be more about the images and less about the captions. They wanted to see pretty things. Now, not so much. We've changed a little bit. People are more worried about the substance of the captions that you are putting out there, the content you're creating, than just your pretty face or just some pretty images. So now the aesthetic of your main feed isn't as important. That doesn't mean that it's not important. It definitely is. We judge a book by its cover, which means you have to present yourself in a curated way that goes with your brand. So you absolutely should be worried about your main feed and how it looks, but it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It's not a magazine anymore. It can be a little more real, a little more raw, but still look like it's on brand for you. So you want to kind of stay with a color theme if that works for you. You kind of want to stick along the lines of what you're doing. So if you're doing light, bright, and airy photos, stick to light, bright, and airy photos. If you are doing more of like color pops, so you're doing hot pinks and yellows and blues, stick with that. You don't want to implement some like light, bright, pastel-y colors, because that doesn't fit. Likewise, if you are doing more of a dark, bold feed, do not all of a sudden have a cute photo out on a balcony in Paris with pink flowers and pastel colors. That's not going to work for you, because it doesn't go with your branding. Figure out what your branding is and then stick to that within the course of your main feed. You should be posting 1 to 2 times a day, depending on your audience. Now, you can do more than that if your audience is receptive of it, but we don't recommend going crazy because we don't want to overwhelm people. When it comes to this, I do recommend once a day. If you are someone who can't produce that much content, I would work on batch creating it so that you have that content ready to go and you don't have to stress over it. Once a day is usually the sweet spot for people, especially if you are in more of an educational field. So if you're using your content to grow your business, if you're a coach, if you are someone who does courses or webinars, if you are trying to sell a product or a service, this is going to be more of a one-time-a-day thing. If, however, you're entertaining, if you are an actress, or if you're doing more of like the cosplay type stuff, or if you are creating short-form video content in different productions, if you're more of an entertaining thing than an educational learn-from-me thing, you can then post a little bit more. I have multiple accounts, and some do really well with 1 post a day. Some do really well with 2 or 3 posts a day. I even had a platform where no matter how many times I posted a day, people were there for it. They did not burn out. So it really depends on your unique and individual audience, which means you're going to have to do some testing. It does matter what time of day you are posting, so pay attention to when your people show up. This is important because of the algorithm, so know when your people are live and give that to them then. If you go into your live feature on Instagram, it will tell you how many people are active on the platform right now, so you can actually tell how many people are there. So track that throughout the course of a couple of days and figure out how many people are there at what different times, and use that to test when you're going to be posting. And don't be afraid to mix it up. Your audience's lives will change. Just think of it this way. Let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, your audience is moms. what does their life look like on a school day versus a weekend? Or what does their life look like on the school year during the summertime off school time? This is going to be different, and you will have to change and pivot your posting schedule based on when your people are going to be available. So you need to really take into consideration what they're going to be doing, when they're going to be available, and how you should be posting. Now, your caption is incredibly important. So whether you're posting video or photos, and I do recommend that you do post some videos to your main feed as well. Not everything needs to be video, but definitely video is king. When it comes to content, you should 100% be creating video, whether it's reels or just a straight video, or you're posting a clip of your IGTV to it. Definitely implement video into this. You want to make sure that your caption and your title, if you're doing video, is really, really strong. Hook them in with a question. Get them there from the very beginning, because if you don't, people will just keep going. So ask them something that hooks them in, or give them something that they have to keep reading. It's almost a little clickbaity, but make sure it's not clickbaity. Make sure that there's a reason for it, but give them that, like, ooh, I want to learn more, I want to know more, I want to see what that person's writing about. Give them a reason to participate, and they're more likely to at least read through it, if not actually have that conversation with you on your platform. So you want to make sure that you give them something that has to do with a photo or something inside of your business. You don't necessarily have to have your caption related to your image, but try to keep things tied together for a reason. If you can speak into their lives and give them some kind of quick win or something that resonates with them, they will continue to read your captions. But if you just kind of jump in and kind of talk at them instead of talking with them, you're going to lose a lot of your audience. I actually have videos on how to do this engagement tactic down below, to ask those questions, to get those responses, and why you can't just show up and say, hey, this is my coffee I got today, but rather say, hey, I'm going to a coffee shop, what should I get? Or I need your opinions on what I should do, to get them engaged. Video down below on that one. Once you've got a really strong title, a really strong caption, you want to make sure you're using hashtags. You can use up to 30 hashtags, and I've got a hashtag guide for you down below. You can go to hashtag.kmrobinson.com to get my free hashtag guide, where I'm showing you all the best hashtags to use and the #1 hashtag you're probably using that's likely killing your reach, and what to use instead. So make sure you are studying hashtags in your industry and what your clients, your followers, your people will be looking at, and use those. In fact, I was on a Clubhouse just yesterday and gave really good advice on someone's hashtags, because she had been using some hashtags that she thought were good, that went with her industry, but weren't where her clients were, and she couldn't figure out why she wasn't getting sales. That's why. So check out my hashtag guide below. I break everything down for you. I got a video on it too. I'm linking it all for you. But it's really going to help you to grow and get discovered, because then it kicks you over to the Explore tab, so that you can continue those conversations and get in front of new people and have that new audience experience with them. So make sure that you are paying attention to what goes in your feed. Remember, even if you're posting photos or videos that are not in the square format, in your grid, it will show it in the square format. So keep that in mind and keep the important stuff there, and then post to your main feed. I would use a mix of photos, videos, some behind the scenes, things with your face, maybe some things further away. I want you to do some lifestyle images, and I want you to do some quote graphics, so that you're doing a mix of products and services and the things that you're offering, but also having that relationship and that connection by showing your face and giving them some inspiration for the day as well. Do not feel like you have to just do one thing all the time, or that you can't do something. You can, just make sure you do it with strategy and implement it into your system. If you are using quote graphics, this is a pro tip. Please do not just do a bunch of beautiful images and videos and then randomly once do a quote. That's weird. That doesn't look right on your feed. It doesn't sit right with your audience. So make sure you're doing that once or twice a week if that's something you want to implement, so that it's naturally a part of the conversation you're having on Instagram. Whatever you're doing should naturally feel like it's part of it. So repetition is key and consistency is key. If you're going to be doing IGTV videos, schedule it for a certain number of times per week. If you're going to be doing pretty photos, schedule it for a certain number of times per week into your production of the content you're creating. You want to make sure you're doing things consistently so that people show up. And if you do it on the same day, they're going to show up for the same type of content. So bonus pro tip for you there. Make sure you've got a strategy with this, but tons of videos on that down below. Instagram Stories is one of the most engaged with features on the Instagram platform, and that's because it's kind of more of a real-time view of what you're doing inside of your day. Instagram Stories lasts for 24 hours before disappearing, which means you get to be a little more raw, a little more unfiltered, take them through the story of your day, the story of your business, show them behind the scenes, and answer questions in real time. It gives that real connection because it's not a highly curated photo or it's not a video that you clearly set up and edited into a production that looks really, really cool. This is live and this is what you're doing right now, and they can catch it within minutes of you posting. And if you are extending what you're doing in your stories, you're kind of bringing them on the journey with you, which then ingrains them to you and your business, which really helps to grow that relationship with them. So stories is incredibly helpful, and that can be found up at the top of your feed. It's those little circles where you can kind of see what people are doing in real time within that 24-hour period. So let's break down what we need to know about stories. First and foremost, you can film stories inside of stories, or you can film it outside and import it in, yes and amen. If you want better quality video and you have the availability to film it outside and then import it in, do it. It'll save you a lot of time and effort. If you don't, that's okay. Film it inside of Instagram stories. Again, it doesn't have to be as curated as the rest of your feed. Now, with that said, you do need to make sure you're staying in alignment with your brand and what you're doing. So if you have things that you can kind of add in to make it look like it's more part of your curated feed, please do. That helps with your branding, but you don't have to. Now, we do recommend that you're doing about 5 to 10 stories per day. That's what's working right now because people really like that engagement. And we typically recommend that you are going to be showing your face first. So whether it is a little short video clip or it's a boomerang or something like that, if you show your face and engage with them first thing, they're more likely to stay. If you are showing a pretty graphic, or you're saying new post, or you are showing something that looks a little more commercially, or you're literally marketing something to them, that seems more commercialized, and they are typically going to click away a lot faster than if you had that real engagement with them. Remember, faces inspire trust. You're much more likely to trust somebody whose face you can see, someone who you can interact with in real time and really see as a real person behind whatever it is that they're doing. So establish that trust every single day by doing the first post of the day as a graphic or as like a boomerang or a little video clip so that people can see you. Now, pro tip here I have for you on this one. This is a good one. Let's just say you don't want to get into hair and makeup every day. You don't want to look cute. Sometimes you want to sit in your messy bun and your sweats and you don't want to deal with things. I get it. That's okay. Bank a little bit of content. Remember, I just told you you can upload things. You don't have to film it in real time inside of your stories. So if you know that you're going to need some time off on this one, but you still want to implement this face first feature that we're talking about, please sit there and make some boomerangs. Y'all, take a day, take 20 minutes, and just film yourself doing different things in different outfits. Pointing, smiling, doing a little dance, whatever it happens to be. Film a whole bunch of them, and then just save them. You can save them or film them outside. If you're doing like boomerangs and things like that, all you have to do is hit the download button. It's up at the top of stories. You can save it before it goes out. You can save it before you put any text on it, and it'll just save it in your camera roll. Then when the time comes that you are having a work day and you are not dealing with the cute factor, you can just pull out that footage and reuse it. And if you save them and space them out, you can reuse them, and people probably are not going to catch on. But when you re-upload those days later, make sure you're adding text, or you're adding a feature, or you're adding some kind of function so that it looks a little bit different and it is engaging. Please do not just put a boomerang of you pointing to nothing. You have to have a reason for it. Speaking of which, remember, most people are listening or on social media without the volume on. So if you are doing a video and you're chatting on your stories, it might be a good idea to put some text on there to let them know what you're talking about, because some people will maybe turn on your volume, some people will skip it, but if you catch their attention with the text, they are more likely to turn that volume on and listen. Or you can do something like using Instagram Threads, which is an app I talk about. I'll link it down below, that actually captions. It does live captioning for your videos in 15-second increments that you can then put on stories. You can even upload it directly from Threads to stories so that people can read what you're saying without having to listen to what you're saying. So always put qualifying information in your story so people know what's going on. Even if you're showing a pretty graphic, or even if you're saying, hey, I've got a new post, please, please, please add some form of text on there or something to indicate what you're doing, because if you do not catch people's attention, you're not going to keep them there. They will click through or click away, which is exactly what you do not want them to do. So always be using text and qualify what you're doing, even if you are speaking and giving them quality information as you are going inside of your stories. Now remember, there are a lot of features and a lot of functions that Instagram gives to us, which, by the way, I love. We know that Instagram pushes things with those features and functions, and they're looking for engagement. If the algorithm is looking for engagement, give them easy ways to engage. We know it's harder to get engagement on our main post because it requires people to leave comments. That's a little bit hard. It's a little bit of a barrier to entry. But with stories, they give you polls. They give you the question box. They give you the sliders. They give you all these things. All people have to do is put their finger on the screen and slide it or tap something. Use these. This teaches people to get involved and engaged with your business. If you post a story and you say this or that, and you've got a poll and they can click this button or they can click this button, all they have to do is vote. They don't have to type anything. This is not hard. This doesn't require brain power. Click a button. Now they've cast their vote, and that counts as an engagement. So that means you are then logging that into the algorithm system, and they're saying, okay, this person is getting engagement. They are getting people to take action. They're getting people to leave an extra second in their time frame before clicking away to engage in some way, shape, or form. So easy. Slider. Slide your finger across. Poll. Pick one choice or the other. You also have things like the quiz where you can test them or you can give them different options that they can pick from and see how their knowledge of your business is, or do just some fun, interesting, entertaining things. You can leave a question box where you're asking them for an opinion or you're asking them to leave you a question. You can do all sorts of things with that, and I've got lots of resources on these functions and a book. Y'all, I wrote a book on it. Then I will link down below so you can actually check out your Instagram stories, and they're constantly building out these features to get you easy engagement. And that trains your people. So once they have seen that it's easy to engage with you and they've started having those conversations with you, they can then jump into having those actual conversations with you inside of your main feed posts. They're going to start interacting with you more. So train them on this really easy way through stories and then jump into the rest of it. You're growing your relationship with them. Remember, it goes back to the dating analogy everybody uses. You're not going to marry the person on the first date in most cases. People are not going to start engaging with you until they get to know you a little bit better. So give them these really easy opportunities to get to know you and interact with your community, and then build up to the point of them actually having engaging conversations on your main feed. Stories are incredibly helpful, and they're so easy to do. You can take them through the course of your day, or you can show them behind the scenes. You can use it as a Q&A. You can do all sorts of things. Pro tip, if you put the question box up and you ask them for questions, anything that they type in, you can then pull up on a live stream. So if you're doing a live stream later that day, you have the ability to access those questions and pull them up on screen to then answer. So you can actually get your questions in advance. You are welcome on that pro tip. More about all that great stuff down below. But stories, definitely essential to keeping in contact with your people throughout the course of the day, the week, the month, the year on your Instagram, and a great way to build up your platform. You can use hashtags. Don't use too many. We don't want to go crazy with the hashtags. Maybe 3 to 5 hashtags max. If you want to leave them clear on your screen, you can, or you can shrink them down really small and tuck them away to the side. Nobody has to see them. They don't clutter up what you're doing. Only tag people that are relevant to the post. If you're talking about somebody, if you're showing someone's account, if you are trying to drive people to them, then you can tag them. Otherwise, don't, because that's not cool. If they're not in the image or the video, if you're not talking about them, if you're not recommending them to people, don't just tag people because you want them to see it. That's not okay. That's spammy. And you can tag up to 20 people inside of your post, so please don't go overboard on this, whether it's main feed or stories, doesn't matter. Keep it to only relevant people, and then if you need somebody to see something, you can share it to them. Stories are a great way to get involved with your fans, and I want to know below, have you used stories yet, and do you have any tips for it? Let me know. If you haven't hit the subscribe and notification bell yet, now is the time. In the next videos, we are going to be taking a look at IGTV, Instagram Reels, Instagram Guides, and everything you need to know about focusing your attention and your efforts to Instagram to create more profit inside of your business through a smart and strategic way of getting your content out there where you're working smarter, not harder. So I will see you in the next video as we continue our discussion on how to grow on Instagram in 2021, the deep dive look.